la famille.
Now it's pitch time. Ooh. I bet some founders are a bit like, some of them I'm sure it's the first time they come on stage like this, so please give them a lot of good vibes. And so how does it work? Each startup gets 5 minutes to pitch, and they get juicy feedback from our amazing jury. So a pitch, it's going to be a user pitch, guys, so you know. Please challenge. They know that you are mostly VCs, and I mean, or you can have a VC perspective on things, so you can challenge them. But the 5 minutes are meant to be for users. So when you do a user pitch, it's problem, solution, market, team. These are the elements that you kind of want. And we have these 5 really cool startups coming on stage. Actually, all B2C, so all startups that you can test and check out right away. So please give them a lot of energy, and don't hesitate to check them out. And I'll let the jury present themselves. We're really lucky to have 3 queen and queen kings tonight. And I'll let you give a short introduction of yourself. Yes, maybe starting with our very own Mathias.
Thank you, everyone. So I'm Mathias Pastor. I work at the family. It's been a year now. Most of what I do is help in the selection of the startups, and then once the startups join the family, we try to create, provide value in some way. The issues we help with are quite varied. It can be anything from hiring, fundraising, to sort of emotional breakdowns and disputes between co-founders, launching new products, opening new countries, that sort of thing. Yeah, that's sort of my main focus of the family.
Hi everyone, I'm Julia. I work at a Berlin-based fund called Point9 Capital. We invest across a wide variety of different industries and sectors, so primarily SaaS and marketplaces, but also some consumer-facing companies which you might know, the likes of Revolut, Delivery Hero, for instance, and Zendesk. Prior to that, I was, I guess, on the dark side, investing on behalf of Rocket Internet. So quite a lot of experience working alongside founders, helping them develop their businesses, and really look forward to hearing all of your guys' ideas.
Hi guys, I'm Nick. I'm with Samsung Next. We're a group that's trying to got quite a unique but also challenging mission to try to change Samsung from just a hardware company to one that does hardware and software. We do that through a variety of means: investments, M&A, partnerships, and product dev. I'm on the investments team, seed to Series B. We're both financial and strategic, mostly looking at deep tech and mobile first SaaS. Happy to be here.
Cool. Okay. Cool. So now let's actually get to our first startup, which is Flowletics. Please give him a huge round of applause, because it must be hard to start first.
Hey everyone, I'm David of Flowletics. I'm going to start off by showing you this. The average worker only spends 5 to 10% of their day in a very productive flow state. And I guess some of you know that problem from yourself, and it's also easy to see why that is the case. Nowadays, we work under constant time pressure. We have mental distractions like notifications from all kinds of services. And also there's a lot of emotional stress when we have stress with a coworker, or maybe at home with our family. That's why at Flowletics we're developing a training app for mental and emotional fitness that helps ambitious people cope with their stress in a more productive way and experience more flow in their work life. Quick excursus to what flow is. Flow is a combination of focus, while at the same time feeling effortlessness, fun, but also feeling in full control. And that kind of combined state is the science behind peak performance, basically. And it has been researched by Mihai, which you can see in the background, for more than 20 years. And the great thing about it is that because of this combination, people are up to 5 times more productive when they're in that flow state. So what we do with Flowletics is we build an app that in the beginning when you start using it, we do an entry test to find out about your specific psychological profile. And based on that profile, we can score you in 4 areas, which are focus, emotional balance, optimism, and growth mindset. And depending on how you score in each of those areas, we will give you a personalized training plan that gives you exercises to improve in each of those areas. And those exercises consist of 10 to 15-minute audio sessions. So you can imagine it like guided audio meditations like you would know them from, for example, Headspace. What we then ask you to do is to give us feedback on the exercises, but also continuously every week on your mental and emotional state. And through that, we can give you a weekly flow score, which shows how likely you are to experience flow during your work or everyday life challenges. And by doing that every week, we can also show you which progress you make during your continuous training and give you the feedback that the training is actually working, which is more important in mental training than, let's say, in physical training where you can see the progress easily. What we also want to do is integrate objective biofeedback, where we take heart rate variability to use objective measures to also give you better feedback on how your mental and emotional fitness is improving over time, not on a subjective level, but like I said, on an objective level. And through that progress tracking, what we can show you is in the beginning you had a flow score of 32, but by training over time, you can actually increase that in the areas where you needed to increase and increase your flow score, and therefore you will be more likely to experience flow in your work life. And by showing you that progress, we believe that this will be a very motivating factor to keep you motivated throughout the training and keep going for weeks at a time, because it's really important that you actually keep going to see results with that kind of training. What we will do with users is we charge them 8 euros on a monthly subscription base, but in the beginning, to get them interested in the product and to help them understand what we're doing, they will have a trial phase of 2 weeks where they can use the personalized coach in all the sessions, and after that they will have to pay to continue to use those services. The German mHealth market, mobile health market, is quite big. It was estimated to be 3 billion by 2017 from an earlier standpoint, and there is numbers that 24.3 million of Germans, so almost 1/4 of the population here, is already using fitness health apps. And the people we want to specifically target in the beginning are people like creatives, executives, founders, students, and researchers, or self-employed freelancers, for example, because they are the driven knowledge workers that we think will be very interested in improving their performance in this way. Why is now a great time to do this? If you look at the mobile fitness app market development that has happened in the last years, then you can see how it has been growing in volume over time. And we believe that the mental fitness market will do a very similar development, and we are currently at the starting point of that development, which makes it very logical to also invest in this topic right now and be at the forefront of this development. What makes Flowletics special in this market? If you compare to other offers like Headspace or Calm that are widely adopted in the US, for example, that are mindfulness meditation apps, the way they're structured is that they're basically digital self-help books just in a digital form. So there's no personalized guidance, and you rely very much on self-discipline. So there's no one telling you what makes sense for you, what you should work on so you improve. And which is probably why they have very high dropout rates of up to 42%. What we want to do, if you know Flowletics, then we want to combine Headspace, for example, with an approach like Flowletics, where it's a very personalized experience, where you feel like you have your own personal coach. And also we gamify the entire experience, where we give you motivation to keep going, to complete your weekly training schedule, for example, where we give you feedback on how that training helps you improve. We are a team of 3 co-founders covering basically every aspect of our business, and we have Jonas developing the training program after years of research and also doing the business development side of the things. Me myself, I'm working in design communications, built another web platform before. And Peter, as a CTO, also working as a CTO as another software company before, also brings great experience in that field. We also have another front-end developer and psychologist master student that help us with the key aspects of the company. And additionally, we have some scientific advisors from, for example, the performance psychology from the Sports University in Cologne that help us also develop the training program. Where are we now? We basically started in March when we joined the APX Accelerator by Axel Springer and Porsche. We then built a prototype with a Facebook Messenger bot where we kind of had a conversational approach to delivering training workouts to interested people. Then moved on to develop an open beta platform that we just launched a couple of weeks ago. And on the side, we obviously started building a community through social media activities, through making a podcast around the topic of productivity in work, and also getting in touch with the beta testers to find out about their experience, learn where to improve, what to improve, and then improve the product, and ultimately get to launching the app in end of November or beginning of December. If you're interested and speak German, because it's only in German so far, you can check it out through that link. Start your training. Definitely let us know about your feedback. And that's it from my side. Thank you.
Stay on there. Can you take this? See how far you can go?
Yeah.
Back in? Yeah, okay. Because who wants to start with some feedback?
Cool, thanks for this. So several thoughts. First thought, I really like the graph on... Sorry, can you hear me now? Sorry about that. I really like the graph on comparing where we are on the mental health adoption stuff versus fitness. Reminds me of a funny story of Lebanese guys who'd moved to New York and who had seen people run in pajamas in a park for a while. And then they went back to Lebanon. They're like, you'll never believe what I saw. People wake up early in the morning and they go run in pajamas for no reason. And I feel like a lot of people, when they hear about meditation, they're in a similar mindset. They don't really understand what people are doing with their earphones, doing nothing in the middle of a room in a quiet zone. And I think reinforcing that aspect is super important. The one thing I didn't really understand is because of that, like, the great thing about the gyms is the social aspect that they managed to create. So not only is it somewhat gamified socially in the sense that you tell people that you go to the gym and then you get some social validation from telling people you go to the gym, but people see you at the gym. And the one problem that I see at this point is that you don't really change anything from the dropout rates from Headspace from getting sort of individual gamification. Like gamification mostly works if you're beating other people or if you're getting some form of social credit from other people. And so I think either so Headspace at some point supposedly had a buddy system, but it doesn't really work. It's quite shit. Having some form of buddy system internally or a way to show people how much you're meditating or taking care of your flow, I think would be, essentially using the sort of vice of competition in order to enhance people's individual flow would be a super good way to do it.
I think it's a great point and something that we consider. I think it's good to stress that we, through our positioning, are in a position where we can actually implement that, because Headspace, with their philosophy of mindfulness meditation, it doesn't really make sense to have this competition aspect in their app. It would be contrary to what they do. So we want to do that, definitely, because what we noticed with the beta version when we were using it in the team, we noticed how if someone had completed their week already, that would motivate other people to also complete their week. So it's exactly that aspect, I think, that we will have to build into the product as well, and it's something that we want to do.
And the other question I had was, it seems like the easiest users for you to get after you've spoken to your family and friends are going to be people who already speak English, and it feels like starting with German-only content is like a pretty big constraint. I was just wondering why you started like that.
Because of resources. We are native German speakers, so
your English is good.
True, but I think in meditation or in those kind of exercise language is so important that not being 100% sure about every single word in a meditation can throw off people.
So like, I use Headspace.
Yeah.
I forgot what the name of the guy is, but most of what he tells me is like, okay, now breathe deeply.
Yeah.
Like, I agree, it's very precise.
Yeah.
But there are also very few words in the 15 minutes that he's speaking to me.
So ours are a bit more complex because we have parts from coaching and more complex exercise, I would say. But I agree, even from this weekend, speaking to all the founders that are international here, it's a big thing that we should do as soon as possible. I think, yeah, it's a priority, but it hasn't been #1 priority. That's the reason.
Okay, cool. I'll move the mic on. And then
Cool. I really like this idea. I've actually looked at a few meditation apps and looked into this space a fair bit. And one of the things that I like about what you're doing is that you're trying to focus on this actual measurability and having an outcome. Because having looked at these meditation apps, one of the highest reasons for churn, at least in the first few weeks of usage, is the fact that people don't actually see a noticeable difference in their behavior. They're not able to feel an improvement. And I think if you're able to quantify that and actually demonstrate to people that they are getting better over time, they're getting better at their work, I think it's a huge benefit and a way to retain users. But how exactly do you go about doing that and providing this quantified, measurable, I guess, experience?
Yeah, so I showed it a little bit. In the beginning, it will be a very subjective test. So you get a standardized test that measures your flow proneness that has been developed in Sweden. We are asked 9 questions, and then about basically situations on, did you feel a lot of moments in the past week where you felt in complete control? Or how did you feel confident tackling challenges? And then you kind of give an answer to that, and then based on those questions, it gives you this flow proneness score. This is the first step, and obviously the second one, which is probably the bigger factor because it's objective, is this whole biofeedback thing. That will be very new and innovative, I think, in this field, and that's something that will probably convince a lot of people that are skeptical maybe about this field, where they say, yeah, I feel better, that's not enough for me. And if they see actual data supporting that, and if we can then show studies as well from users that have really improved, for example, then this will be of big help, obviously, yeah.
And I guess another quick question. I think one of the big challenges here is the competitive risk from the likes of Headspace, which are also offering more tailored sessions, so sessions around productivity, and they really do dominate the consumer landscape when it comes to all of this mindfulness. Have you thought of maybe trying to tackle that competition by actually going B2B and selling this into directly into enterprises as a way to help their employees be more productive, for instance?
Yes. First of all, I think they are definitely competition. There's an overlap in target groups, but I also think we speak to a very different target group that has not at all been interested in the likes of Headspace, for example, because they are, like, their whole visual communication, for example, is very childlike or maybe feminine, and we go way more into performance and productivity. So that's one different thing, which through the philosophy gives us a very different product as well. But yeah, and then also B2B wise, we're trying that. We are talking to companies also like Axel Springer, for example, where we're in the accelerator, so we have a good contact there, and we're doing workshops, for example, where we introduce to Flow, and then companies have the chance to maybe give their employees licenses to use the platform for a year, for example. That's something we're testing right now, but we are really putting all our focus on it because it's long sales cycles and stuff like that. So we're testing on the site to see how is the reaction. If it turns out that's a very good way, sure, we'll put more efforts into that. But right now we're testing it in a small way.
I'll just echo what the other said in terms of market. It's a massively growing market. You're targeting that, which is good. The problem is that with wellness apps, it's not a problem, it's an opportunity, but with wellness apps, it's difficult to monetize unless it's healthcare and it can be reimbursed somehow. People only have so many dollars per month they're going to put towards subscriptions, and so that's going to be your first hurdle, as well as customer acquisition. What I thought was interesting, what you were saying just now, was using some of these biomarkers to actually quantifiably recognize if it's helping with flow or not. Is there a correlation between heart rate or stress or heart rate variability and flow? Has this been measured or documented?
Yes, there is. The heart rate variability shows the difference in time between your individual heartbeats, basically, and if there are I'm not the psychologist, but if they are somewhat irregular, that speaks for your parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system to be activated, which is the fight or flight system and the chill down system. And if they are both activated, that speaks for focus and relaxing, for example. So there's a clear correlation that has been scientifically proven.
Cool. Yeah, you might want to think about in the roadmap implementing something into the product which allows for tracking during flow, periods of flow. It sounds like your app is really used outside of those periods, and having something which the user starts, stops when they're in their productive state. Therefore it's measuring the heart rate, and maybe you're actually creating some kind of content to help put them in flow, whether it's audio. I've definitely there's actually a startup here in Berlin called Endel, which you might ENDEL, which you might want to have a look into, which is creative AI music. Trying to put people into flow. And that type of thing, which is actually being utilized whilst they're in flow, would help you get the measurable feedback as well.
Absolutely. I mean, Calm and other apps have also music sections where they have music to sleep and stuff like that. So we could have, there's also binaural beats and stuff like that. That also helps you to get in the flow. Makes total sense to integrate that. And I think the tracking aspect is interesting to maybe also integrate it with time tracking tools, for example. So if you're coding and you track your time that you're coding on a specific challenge to bring in the correlating the measurement on how much flow you felt during a certain activity or during sports or other work. And then I think you could have very interesting biofeedback in that regard.
Totally. And just one last question. I don't know if we have time or not, do we? Okay. In terms of the content you're producing, can you give us an idea of what that content is and how you guys are actually producing that content and who's doing it and how scalable that is?
Yeah. So one part of it is mindfulness meditation, like you just described, basically a lot of breathe in, breathe out, and a few instructions. There's also some coaching aspects, and all the different techniques, they already exist out there. They're just single techniques so far, and we use those, create new workouts, which is not that complicated. It's not rocket science to do those workouts and put people in a position to ask about certain perspectives and stuff like that. So Jonas is creating them right now, and also recording them. So that definitely takes a big chunk of time, but also it's limited how many workouts we need. So if we have 50 or 60, then that's a good stock for the beginning. So once we have that reached, it's not an endless work we have to do.
Cool, thanks.
I actually have one point about the biomarkers. I'm just quite skeptical. So there's so much noise in that data that you're going to get a lot of people who are going to have their BPM increase despite the fact that they're using your app. And so I think on average the impact was probably going to be 0. I can't believe that if you do it for 10 years, it might have an impact on your actual resting heart rate and stuff. And so I just think if you you want to focus your message, you just started public beta this month. I just think that you add a lot of noise if you include these biomarkers, and you'll get people who are frustrated by the fact that you could add it as an option, and I think it's a sort of feel-good feature or whatever. But I think you have enough value on the rest to focus on that.
Come on, who wants to download Flowletics to get more flow? I want more flow, for sure. Okay, now we have Seepark, coming from Belgium. Straight from Belgium. Please welcome them on stage.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for your time and thanks for being here. So I'm Adrian. I'm one of the co-founders of Seepark. We started from the observation that parking regulation in big city is a jungle. You never know if you need to pay, if you need to put your disc, how long you can stay, how much you will need to pay. And at the end of the day, you usually end up with a parking ticket, what generates a lot of frustration. I actually started building this mobile app because I left on a holiday. I left my car somewhere I thought it was totally free. And when I came back, I found 5 parking tickets on my windscreen. So to get rid of those parking tickets, we built a free mobile app called Seepark. Seepark is doing 3 things. First of all, we mapped all the parking areas, so you know immediately if you need to pay, if you need to put your parking disc, or if the parking is free. So you won't receive any parking tickets because you didn't know what to do. You didn't see the sign was 200 meters down the road. On top of that, you will be able to check if there is no cheaper parking spot available in the area, because most of the time, like the main street are paid parking and quite expensive, but if you go a bit further, it's cheaper or even free. But we will go further than that. We'll give you the risk of control. So we're going to tell you if you are parked in this street, you are most likely to be controlled during 9 and 10, for example. And we'll even go to up to sending you a real-time notification if an agent has been spotted close to your car. So obviously, community is the key point, the key asset we have at Seepark, because all the information we get is crowdsourced. So we launched the app 1 year ago, and we managed to create a community of 135,000 users, and this without spending any euro on marketing. We are now available in all the major cities in Belgium and in Paris, and early November we will release our app in all the big cities in France. Our business model is based on geolocated marketing. We know where our users are parked or will be parked, and we bring with a pin on the map and with private message interaction between the brand and the user that are parked nearby his point of sale. But it's only the beginning. We want to go way further than what we're doing right now. We want to keep personalizing our map. We want to integrate if you have like a disabled parking card, if you have a resident parking cards, to have personalized map. We want to integrate parking payments, so you will be able to book directly parking from our app. We want to keep on building our social mapping tool to go even faster, so that our users could map their parking area in the area they know. And our ambition on the longer term, it's also to be able to predict parking spot availability. We believe we have the best team to do that. So we are two founders. Nicolas, who is in the room, was the CTO and the technical guy. I'm the business guy and the finance guy. And we have a very supportive team of mostly developers and head of marketing and mapping girl. We raised 750K 2 months ago, and we are about to start expanding our app in France and in the other European market. So thank you very much for your time. If you're tired of getting parking tickets, download our app. It's free. And if you are from Berlin, it's not yet available, but go on our website and vote for the city.
Congratulations on getting 135,000 users in your community without any marketing. How have you done that?
I would say there is no magical trick. We try to play as much as possible with the press, like having the most exposure we can with the press, and then we keep on focusing on trying to build like a community with our users, helping them to understand that we really need them to bring their family, their relatives into the app, to be able to have better quality, and then like all the growth hacking trick we could implement, we could try, we did it.
Got it. And so at the moment you have 135,000 users. Are those monthly active, daily actives? What's
Yeah, of course, not all of them are daily active.
Okay.
We have about 2,500 daily active users.
And with the targeting you have with these users, what's the CPI you're achieving? What's the cost per impression of the ads you're targeting them with that you're achieving?
To be honest, we are very early in the monetization strategy, so it
Okay.
depends on which client we're working on. But we are between 25 cents for the cheapest and 50 cents for the most expensive.
Per impression.
Yeah, but it's a click rate for us, because like the message right now, you have to open it, you receive a message, and you have to open it, so it's CPC. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So that was, I mean, without sort of digging too much into the math there, I think you might want to think about different types of monetization, just because for that you're going to have to really scale the number of users and also the amount of ads you're targeting them with, which could get annoying and also a little bit creepy. But yeah, it's impressive what you built so far.
We would definitely agree, and we also trying to implement, like for example, parking payment where we can take commission. So it's a, like, let's say, a hybrid business model as well.
I almost want to make a substitution, because my colleague Jakob, who a lot of you have met, used to work for Daimler. Jakob, text me a question if you have one. Yeah. I think you, yeah.
Congrats, I really like this. I think it reminds me a lot of Waze in the early days, so I think you're kind of doing what Waze is doing, but for parking, which I think is cool. I would definitely use this. I guess what I find interesting with this is the potential to actually start being a part of the payment. So actually allowing users to pay for their parking ticket via your app. How do you think about actually doing this? Because from what I understand, I'm not super familiar with parking in France, but in the UK, you'll have different communes that own different parking lots. Some of them are like privatized, some of them are public, and you need to get all of those different entities on board in order for this to work. So yeah, how do you think about scaling that part moving forward?
Definitely, it's to be honest, it's a nightmare. In every city you go, like you have different technology, different payment provider, different people from different companies, and that's also one of the reasons why we're not focusing on that, because I think a lot of parking companies or smart parking apps were focusing on that, trying to develop technology to implement payment. But then it's really difficult to scale because you have to build another technology every time. And we are taking the problem on with another angle. So we are building a community. We are growing this community as fast as possible, and once we have like a high penetration rate in a city, we have a better negotiation power to go to the city and say, this is how we will work, this is our API, send us all your data, because otherwise you're missing so much money because we have like half of your city using our app. That's the strategy.
Awesome, I really like that.
Cool, yeah, what you've done is cool. I have one little remark on just the pitch. On the slide where you show the local advertising thing, you show a motor show, which is weird because the guy's already in his car. Just as a small detail, try to put a restaurant or something. He's probably thinking about that rather than buying a new car right away. It was just a small detail. And then on the monetization thing, I was thinking, it reminds me, like one of the ways that you could have leverage, reminds me of a thing in Paris where people who were tired of paying for metro tickets had built an insurance scheme where no one would pay. So you just like subscribe to this insurance scheme and pay for insurance. And you would never buy a ticket, but then as soon as you got a fine, you'd send it to the insurance, and the insurance would pay you back the fine. I think like a fun way to get leverage would be to threaten the parking people to do the same thing with parking. So you just say, okay, well, I'll have people who never pay, and they'll just pay a subscription. If they do it, then I'll just...
I would say we thought about it and we didn't find how to do it because it's difficult to compute the expected value. But if you find a solution, I would be happy to give you a share of my company.
You probably have more data on this sort of thing than anyone else does.
Sorry?
You probably have more data on this than anyone else does.
Yes, but honestly, with what we have now, it's still too early. We don't have enough data to be able to have like a good result, or maybe we're not good enough at statistics.
And you said a lot of people, like most of your acquisition was through the press, but like one bit of it that's a bit not dodgy, but like sort of gray area is the bit about knowing about people who are essentially putting fines. Did you get any issues with that, or not at all?
Not yet, I would say. It might happen, and I'm sure it will happen in the future. We think we have not some protection, but most of the parking officers, they are employees from private companies. So it's a level down that you have with Coyote or with Waze, where it's a police officer, like mandated people from the city. And actually, we are not creating any information. We are building a tool, like we are building a WhatsApp group of 135,000 users.
I got some feedback from Jakob. So if these are shit, you can blame him for them. He mentioned, a good point he mentioned was that the quality of data, given that it's crowdsourced, is always going to be an issue. How are you measuring the quality of data that's being put into the platform?
What we do right now, we mapped ourselves the first version of the city, and then we rely on user to help us tracking the updates and tracking the mistakes. So I would say like that's what we believe in, how bigger your community is, how better your data is.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and just sort of a helpful point. Licensing to OEMs could be another interesting route for you. They actually, a lot of OEMs have parking data on their navigation, and they license data from many different sources, so this could be additive to that as well. So one thing you might want to look at.
Indeed, we received several approach to ask for an API to be able, like with coordinates, to get a response of what kind of parking, what's the price. So we're definitely thinking about that, yeah.
Okay. Please vote for Berlin. I mean, I don't have a car, but I would vote for you. Rateit, are you on? Cool. Okay, remind us where you're coming from again.
Okay, so should I start?
Oh, no, sorry. Wait for the applause. No, stay here. No. Let me put this in full screen. And please help us welcome him on stage.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm Nigam, I'm coming from Rateit, and I have one question, a very essential one to ask you. How many of you in the past month have used public transportation services? Could you please raise your hand? That's very cool, because I'm in the right room then to present Rateit. So basically, what we're building is a community-powered mobility as a service, which enables people to find the best solution to travel from point A to B. And after we looked in the market, the solutions right now, they either localize on just major urban cities, or they're working on some smaller, probably only major cities, and there's no solution, or just city-to-city transportation, but there's no solution which provide like good experience for inner and outer traveling. So therefore, we're starting making a commuting super cool. And we used several key sauces to make this thing happen, actually. And one most important thing what we started to make and to grow is we're building a family of commuters. And this is not the same family as we're here, but we share one very thing in common, which is values. And what we're building is a group of people who share the passion for traveling and who want to travel the best way they could. Therefore, our users, we're aiming for people who like to crowdsource data, who like to report things that are happening around in order to make experience for themselves better and for others better. And it also reflects in our own values, which are stress-free traveling and exciting onboard experience. And what we mean with exciting onboard experience is that a lot of people who are traveling, for example, the London Tube, they can listen to 5 Masters of Scale podcasts and then be run out of material after 2 years of commuting in the tube, and then they just don't have anything to do after quite a while. So therefore, we started thinking, okay, what can we do to solve this? And first of all, we started to reflect on what the community wanted, and that is a way to share relevant information while traveling. Okay, you can use a city map, or you can use Google Maps, and they just make a pop-up ad and ask, okay, is this bus filled with people? Are you enjoying your traveling experience? And most of the time, you don't even care about notification, because you know that doesn't mean anything. It means something for the data, which they can later sell. But we wanted to make this personal, so we created a feed for people to actually report things that are happening around. This is an example how, for example, in Vilnius, Lithuania, there is a case of a group of people who are sharing information of public ticket inspectors, and that relates to Seepark, we just spoke before, because people don't want to pay for commuting. And there was this huge need for people who were sharing this information on Facebook groups, and come on, it's 2018, who likes Facebook anymore? So we wanted to create something, you know, like something cool and special. So we just made a convenient solution for people to share the location for inspectors on map. And that reflected in the huge user growth and traction from Facebook groups. Second thing was, we noticed that a lot of people, especially at night and especially women, are afraid to travel with public transportation. Therefore, we encouraged users to report any suspicious guys on I don't know if you noticed, there was one guy talking the whole day around here and looking at it. So exactly these kind of people who are just looking at you in the public transportation. So we wanted to make this thing reality so you can see what's happening around you. And what we are currently building on is a hyperlocal chat, which means anytime you would enter a bus or any other means of transportation, you would get into let's say a chat box where you can chat with anyone who's on the same transportation, not the device, but vehicle. therefore you could share your experience what's happening. This is a clear example about the guy what we presented in this slide, that there's a sketchy guy. So people are just speaking about him in the group chat. And the thing is, after you leave the vehicle, you're out of the chat. And after the line is finished, chat is deleted, it's gone forever. And every time we just engage users to actually join the chat. So basically, if there is interesting discussion or someone is just shitposting, you're welcome and enjoy your time while commuting. Second thing, and it's one of also key points in Rateit, is that we care of people not only to share relevant information and make everything related to the knowledge of crowdsourcing information. We also want our users, no matter where they are, either it's a small city or a big city, countryside, farmer, island, your offshore house in Thailand, wherever, we're gonna point you from there to anywhere you wanna go by providing a route planning option in Rateit. And it doesn't matter where you're coming from. And currently we're providing this option in Lithuania only. And we have already trains, we have buses, we have trams and metro, unfortunately. We don't have in Lithuania, but we offer you to travel within your city to other cities, and everything is easy. In the future, we're also expanding to other countries and want to implement an easy way to buy all the tickets. So basically, you would pay one click, one button, and you would get from London to Tokyo, and we would provide a tube ticket to London Heathrow, a plane ticket to Tokyo, and then wherever you want to go to your shady bar or wherever. So while they currently encourage you, if you don't have anything to do in the next 2 weeks, on November 2nd, we're rolling out our new version on App Store and Apple Store, on Google Play Store and Apple Store, and we would like to invite you to join our huge community of 15,000 people currently, which are our monthly users, and 4,000 daily users group who are passionate about commuting, who are passionate about traveling, and who want to just be themselves. And I'm just going to show you some of the users who are in Lithuania traveling the way they like. And you know, this is kind of a situation when you have university at 8 o'clock and at 9 o'clock you have to go to Pearl Harbor. And also when it's after Christmas period and you just don't have any presents for kids anymore. So yeah, thank you very much for your attention. And that's Kasper, that's my co-founder, he's also my team member. We're currently mostly building this ourselves, and we also have 2 other people who are helping us on the business side, but currently it's just building the community right now, so thank you. So I try not to
Oh yeah, sorry.
So hi everyone, I'm Kasparos, and I'm the co-founder, and I do all the tech-related stuff.
So if you have any tech questions, this is the person to ask.
Cool. Great pitch. I would say I have a lot of experience commuting. I would say my #1 tip for people that don't like commuting is actually move to Berlin, because then you can bike everywhere. It's amazing. But on a side, I guess, in terms of questions, I'm very used to commuting in London and before I moved to Berlin. And one of the key things about commuting in London is the last thing you want to do is actually make eye contact or make conversation with someone on public transport. It is just like, it's a sin. So why would you want to have a conversation with someone on an app? And how do you actually incentivize people to take time out of their day to actually contribute to your community and engage with your app? What is the real incentive as a user to get involved in the conversation?
Are we talking about hyperlocal chat app, or we're talking about crowdsourcing information? Because that's, I think, 2 very different fields. Because for
I would say that first the hyperlocal chat, and secondly, actually, what's the incentive to contribute information?
So currently for the hyperlocal chat, we had like a 3 hours discussion with Jacob yesterday, and what we saw that basically a lot of people, okay, we could check that most of the people are on their phones while they're commuting, and some group of people, they're just scrolling Facebook or doing nothing basically, and they still sometimes want some sort of social interaction with each other. So we want to check if this actually works, and that's the main reason why we want to try, because a lot of people, at least in our experience when we launched our crowdsourcing platform, a lot of people started like writing some of the posts which encouraged them to chat with each other to some extent. So we just wanted to create some sort of a solution to check whether that's real the case and did we find something. About the crowdsourcing incentivization, a lot of people, I mean, you give and then someone gives you back. And this community principle, even based on research, if you incentivize a user, he tends to crowdsource less. So it's more of a community which understands what's happening and just cares about each other. So that's what we're people aiming for, and they actually understand what's happening. So right now there is no need to incentivize, at least. And for future, we're planning to add some gamification elements. So for you could, it's something like Waze-like. So you could get your levels and you contribute like in the GitHub or wherever. So we're looking for opportunities, but right now there is no need to do so.
On the hyperlocal chat stuff, it's interesting. I think getting a critical mass on board is going to be, maybe a little bit tricky. And I also worry a little bit about moderation and how you'll, just control some of the messages going on and some of the potential alarm and scare one could, generate. But actually, to me, the more interesting thing about what you're building is the multimodal element. As you guys know, there's a lot of competition in this space. There's Go Euro, there's from A to B, all these players. The biggest difficulty they have is, yes, you can get an API from Deutsche Bahn or someone and travel from Munich to Berlin pretty easily and understand the train times, etc. If you're trying to travel from Berlin to Amorgos in Greece and you need to include the ferry times, a Greek ferry company is not going to have an API for you guys to include, which is where the crowdsourcing stuff becomes really interesting. But again, the quality of the data point, which I mentioned, which was an issue for the company previously, is one thing you're going to have to tackle with. And secondly, you probably do need to sort of build in some of these APIs from these transport providers, right? I'm assuming it's a combination of APIs plus crowdsourced data.
So basically, that's what we were doing for the last, I think, 4 months, right? So I mean, we also built our own backend and our own infrastructure. So basically, I mean, we're in control of the data, because, for example, in Lithuania right now, we are actually the first platform in history that has train data, intercity data, and all the actual cities and villages in the country. So we have basically, we got this from the Ministry of Transportation. Right. So yeah, well, actually we did it, but of course for some cities, I mean, we're looking at maybe a hybrid approach, that for somewhere where the data, we don't have the data, or we can get it from like, I don't know, from the government, so we can use our own stuff, and somewhere where the data is already like in place and it's good, we can also use APIs. So I think maybe this is also in combination that you can use multiple APIs in combination. So if Citymapper has a good API in one place, you can use that. Right. You can also leverage, for example, if Movida has more data, or the transit app, that's the New York one.
Cool. And the business model for this is what exactly?
So basically we're exploring a lot of opportunities. We don't have a clear strategy how to go with this. So what we tried already, as we are aiming for hyperlocal communities, so we tried with hyperlocal events. So we promoted some festivals in Lithuania. We got like discount codes for our users. So we sold quite a few tickets in this way. Also in the future, we want to achieve that, to sell tickets, so we also get a margin from that. Mm-hmm. Although it's very complicated to expand and get economies of scale for that, so we're not concentrating on it right now. I think it's not the time, but in the future, yes. But basically, it's mostly advertising and hyperlocal advertising.
Okay, cool.
So I have one particular question first on how long it took you to build sort of the multimodal stuff for Lithuania.
So we started 8 months ago and we launched 6 months ago, and basically.
So it took you 2 months to build.
And then we're constantly improving it, definitely. But
I mean, like,
yes.
Core features of multimodal.
Yes.
Okay, because like I think you have 2 different use cases. You have one which is the from A to B, which is a lot more complex and sort of like not day-to-day commuting. And I don't think that that's what your users use you for most of the time. They're using it for their daily commutes or sort of things within the city that they live in. And I think that doing a sort of quick to deploy Citymapper with some level of crowdsourcing of data for that aspect is super useful. And I think that if you sort of start looking into other things, you're going to lose focus. And you could be, if it only took you 2 months to do all of Lithuania, you should be doing that like small market by small market. There's quite a lot of cities that Citymapper doesn't work in, and people could use you for that. That's the first thing. And then in terms of the hyperlocal chat, I just don't really, like, I understand this, the value is like, it creates a bit more engagement from just the sort of crowdsourcing element, and maybe in some way you incentivize people to crowdsource information by giving them an option to talk about other stuff. But on top of, so the moderation, and I mean, the moderation is obviously going to be an issue. Like, I've never seen a hyperlocal app work in that context, especially when you have some degree of anonymity. And so if I were you, I'd just kill it and focus on doing city mapper for sort of the places that they're ignoring, and you just do a new city or a new every other week or every other month. That's like a much more straightforward play for me than like trying to build a community on. Essentially, doing yik yak for the tube is just weird. You're going to end up with like 3 trolls insulting a weird guy with an unshaved beard, or like creeps talking to girls, and I think it's a bit of a recipe for disaster. Whereas the value that you provide on the other end is like super useful. So I'd focus on that.
Just to follow up on that, I think that the chat is something that can potentially work once you have large-scale adoption. I think until you get large-scale adoption, these hyperlocal chats just don't work because you don't have enough people around you to talk to. So I think you really should focus on actually building out an app which people use on a regular basis. And once you have that frequent interaction and you know that within a certain geographical area there's a high proportion of users that are using it, then maybe the chat can be a second thing to build on top of.
People mentioned that they want it, which I'd be a bit surprised by. Like in the tube in London, at least, you're like squashed against other people. I don't know if you want to like take your phone out to talk to a person whose face is like right in front of yours and be like,
I mean,
if you wanted to, you do it in person, and you don't. So yeah, I think focus on what you're good at, which is the other bit.
all right, thank you.
Okay, Eco-Blum. Hamza, I don't know where he went. Hey Hamza, coming from Sweden. Cool, hello.
Should I stand up here?
Yes, please do. This is
All right.
and,
Let's see. So, hello everyone. Ooh, too much beer, I guess. No? Good? Cool. Yeah. My name is Hamza. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Eco-Blum, together with my other co-founder, Juanjo. He's sitting here as a CTO. So the story of Eco-Blum, it's important with stories. Julia taught us that yesterday. So I was introduced 5 years ago to this growing technique known as aquaponics. And I was like, what is aquaponics? Aquaponics is a combination of aquaculture, which is raising fish in tanks, and hydroponics, which is cultivating plants in water. And this technique dates back to the, Mayan Indians used to use this technique, and the Aztec people used to use this technique. So it's very, very ancient. And I was very fascinated by the technique, and I wanted to study it further. And I saw the possibilities of presenting this new innovative way of growing food to people. And so I started a project in Africa, in Tanzania actually, where my whole idea and vision was I wanted to empower the farmers in Africa to grow their own food and to be self-sustaining by using this ancient and very, very resource-efficient growing technique. You never water your plants. It's the same water that recirculates, so it's very water efficient. You never, obviously it's growing in water, so you don't have to water your plants, and that's kind of one of the biggest problems with us and people. We want to grow fresh food, we want to buy fresh herbs and basil in stores, but we end up killing them after 3 days because we don't know how much to water, and we water them too much or too little, and that's kind of the biggest problem. So this very cool ancient growing technique, I figured it would be amazing to how can we empower, that was the question, how can we empower people to grow much smarter and much more locally in a very resource efficient way? So the dream and that's kind of where the dream and vision started. I wanted to modernize this very ancient growing technique. I started using and growing aquaponically at home, and people thought it was weird. it is a very weird technique. You'll see soon as well. But how can you modernize it? Because it's very, you have to manually work, and you have to a lot of maintenance, etc., etc. So how do you digitize? How do you automate? And obviously tech is very important nowadays. So this is what we created, the Eco Garden it's called, and again, it's a self-sustaining ecosystem where we're using the fish waste as the nutrient source for the plant. So the fish waste is broken down by microorganisms in the water naturally, and to nitrate, which is the nutrient source for the plants. So the plants absorb the nutrients, and at the same time they filter the water, which recirculates back to the fish tank. So it's a self-sustaining, completely 100. You're growing 100% organic food all year round. So, and how to obviously make it integrate tech, we have to integrate tech and apps and all these cool services. So, boom, let's add tech to this very ancient growing technique. Obviously, it's self-sustaining and fully automated, it's connected to your Wi-Fi. You can monitor and control it from wherever you are in the world. You can be laying on a beach in south of Spain. They're very important of saying south of Spain, not Spain, south of Spain. And you can feed your fish from the app. You can monitor your temperature. You can control the light. You can actually use voice assistant to do all these things as well if you're that lazy. So we made it even easier for you to grow all year round. And you grow all kinds of herbs and vegetables and fruits. So empowering people to grow smarter, much more locally in a very resource efficient way. That is our vision. And we want to do that one step at a time, one person at a time. So the app essentially combines different aspects. You have, for example, the temperature, where you can monitor the temperature at all times. There are temperature sensors that will notify you as a user when the temperature gets too high or too low. Different fish prefers different types of temperature. Exotic fish are a bit spoiled, so they like warmer temperature. So it will notify you when things are going up or down. The light will self-adjust. There's a light sensor that will measure the ambient light in the environment, so it will dim the light or increase it depending on the light that it measures. In Sweden, it will be on all the time, 100%. In Spain, it will be like 50% maybe. But it's a way to save you energy as well, of course. And the plants, it's not here, but you can choose the plant selection of plants that you monitor, and you can write about, and you can kind of track the whole progress from seed to harvest. And that's a way for us to educate users about sustainable farming. Because if you look at urbanization, we're growing rapidly. We're 60% of the world's population will be living in urban environments by 2030, and combined with the amount of food that we're wasting, over 1 billion tons of food gets lost or wasted every single year. But the problem is not the food chain. The problem is you guys. You are the problem. I am the problem too, but I'm trying to solve it as well. You are the problem because you are not aware of the overconsumption of food and water. You don't know how much your consumption of food and water affects the world negatively. So that is something we want to educate users about. We want to educate them about how their consumption of food and water affects the world negatively, and how they can make a change and kind of change their habits. And that is kind of our way of changing the world. Gandhi said that if you want to improve the world, start with yourself. And that's kind of what we want to empower people to grow smarter. So, and it goes beyond growing smarter, and it goes beyond growing in a very self-sustaining way and a resource-efficient way. Fish, according to science, help and boost your well-being. Maybe we should, the Mindness app, we should talk. Maybe we can do some kind of collaboration where we can listen to water, for example. I don't know. But automated and self-sustaining, it's a natural stress reducer. Obviously, it's minimal maintenance. It's fully automated. It's completely self-sustaining. You monitor and control it from your phone and using voice assistant. But it also creates an interactive way of growing food. Kids love this. They watch it. They learn. We create this mindset, and that's kind of what we want to do. We want to create this awareness and a respect for food. And of course, the Scandinavian design, obviously, it's from Sweden, so it has to be. Very user-friendly in IoT and smart sensors. So the IoT solution is something we're also using and integrated in our B2B solution, which I'm not going to talk about it in this pitch. What can you grow is a big question. You can grow all kinds of herbs. You can literally grow anything in aquaponics. Growing aquaponically is one of the most self-sustaining and resource-efficient growing methods known today. And these are some of the examples that you can grow, and the types of fish are many. It goes from all kinds of fish to aquatic animals like shrimps and crabs, etc. I have 3 of them in my home, so it's pretty nice. I'm meditating all the time, basically. You can buy today. We launched 6 weeks ago on Kickstarter. We finished it 2 weeks ago. We raised over 100K euros. A very successful campaign, and we're launching on Indiegogo next week on Tuesday as well. And we are also, we hope to expand, and we want everyone to be growing their own food at home. And here's some numbers of the Kickstarter campaign. There's some days left, and you can check it out as well. This page is up, but not live, so you can check the video and stuff. Very nice. And of course, we have, we started a year and a half ago. That's kind of when we started developing the idea really, and see how can we really empower people, and how can we integrate tech, and started prototyping. And we didn't have any reference at the time, but now we have a few references. These are some of them. We are partnering up. We have a partnership with Red Bull, for example, Red Bull Basement. It's an entrepreneurial part and branch of Red Bull. Google is one of our partners as well. They're helping us to kind of looking into how we can expand, but also looking into AI and machine learning, and really automate this on a very much bigger scale. And of course, we want to, and we're looking into and have partnered up with retail stores, very design retail stores in Sweden, and we're looking into London and Paris as well. The team consists of myself, the CEO and co-founder. Juan is over here, the CTO, the programming wizard. He's programming satellite at Airbus, so he's very knowledgeable and talented in that area. I think I'm also smart, or we can't say smart because Osama told us that smart doesn't, Anyways, Emil, CSO, strategist, super competent, machine when it comes to design, worked at developed the Nerf guns at Hasbro, etc. Super talented designer, telecommunication engineer, app developer. We're all engineers, 6 engineers based in Stockholm. Some of us are spread around the world, and we're growing. And yeah, thank you.
You can take this one.
Oh, sorry.
Cool.
Thanks for the pitch. I love the urban farming space. I think it's very undervalued at the moment. It should be growing much more quickly than it is, and cities should be much more sustainable with locally grown produce. A few concerns about your solution. It looks like the amount of herbs or vegetables you can grow is very minimal for the size of the tank. So, if I wanted to have enough vegetables to feed a family of 2 or 3 in my apartment for a month, like how big would this tank need to be? How many shrimp and fish would it need to have? And that's where my concerns start to come, because the number of variables and friction for the user is high. Like you got to start to control temperature. You got to start to control the fish and the ecosystem within it. Yes, water is recycling itself, but you need electricity, and what's the payoff between electricity and just buying locally, from a store? Correct. All these questions.
Yeah, so I mean, first of all, excellent point. The purpose is not to grow a lot of food and really, sustain your family. The idea is to show people that they can grow food much more locally in a very resource and innovative way. And so the idea is to kind of create awareness. That's kind of the main vision that we have: create awareness and a mindset and respect for food. But you can grow up to 6 plants. It would take you a year and a half before you kind of get the money back. And it really depends on the type of herbs or vegetables that you grow. If you grow watercress, for example, you can harvest after 5 days, and you can feed the whole family, definitely. You keep harvesting after 5 days, and the only thing you're doing, you're just spreading seeds. You harvest, you cut, and then you can continue. And to make it even more, one of the bigger things you talk about temperature. So we have a heater, we have a temperature sensor. Everything is communicating with each other. So when the temperature is getting too low, it will increase the heater. The heat will increase. So we'll kind of make sure that the temperature is correct. And in the app, you can choose what type of fish that you're having, just to kind of tell the system that I'm having a betta fish, and the system knows, okay, a betta fish requires or needs around 26 degrees Celsius, and it will make sure that the balance is there. There's an automatic feeder as well in the system, so you fill the feeder once or twice a year, and it will feed the fish automatically, and you schedule that in the application as well. So you can do it manually. So obviously you can feed the fish with your hand like the old-fashioned way. You can feed it by just pressing Feed Me Now button, or you can schedule it so it feeds your fish every day at a specific time for X amount of days, for example. So it's very self-sustaining and automated in that sense. But again, the purpose is not to mass produce food in your home. The purpose is to kind of bring something to enrich the environment you live in, to kind of create this soothing and relaxing environment, but at the same time educate user and kind of create awareness.
Cool. And then, so I mean, for your company, do you have a longer term vision to
Yes.
be creating food within the house and to just sort of move away from the educational awareness aspect to actually genuinely producing a good amount of food indoors in apartments and houses?
Absolutely. So the same IoT solution that we've developed, we've just integrated in hydroponic vegetable walls. So they are modular walls that you literally can just set up in your home, and this is something we're initiating partnerships with restaurants and cafes in Stockholm. They love this. So people, and this is kind of a subscription-based model, paper harvest, or there's so many different kinds that you can tweak, and that's the kind of beauty of this market, that you can tweak and play around with the business models. But the idea is to kind of set up modular walls in restaurants and cafes, and they grow all year round, and they can literally grow like strawberries in January and make all kinds of crazy drinks and stuff. So that's kind of that, and then the purpose would be to grow much more locally, and skip the whole chain of importing plastic and packaging and all these things. So you're growing right behind the bar, and that would be the purpose then, to grow.
Great.
And we're doing that already, like the prototyping phase. It's the same IoT solution. We'll just literally put it there.
Yeah, you have a great team. You should definitely start to head that direction. And there's so much learning and data you guys will gather from. No one actually knows how plants grow at the moment. No one knows like the amount of light you need, the amount of water you need, the humidity. It's actually like crazy how little we know about plants. And so I think you have. Maybe you should start something in Canada too. I hear their plant industry is growing massively.
Yeah, so the third step in this approach, I told you first step, which is this one. The second step is the eco wall, as we call it, the model vegetable. The third step would be the eco sense, which is a kind of a black box with all the sensors that would measure all the data and kind of digitize and automate commercial farms. And that would be on a much bigger scale, and that really kind of it would be the core business, because the black box would be powered by AI and machine learning, obviously. So, and that's kind of the direction we're moving into. But we have a focus, and we kind of have a clear plan of action, and slowly, one step at a time. We really want to scale this because we see a huge potential, and we see, of course, a potential within the Eco Wall, which is both a B2C and a B2B product. We're going to launch that on Kickstarter next year. Most people will buy it, but at the same time, cafes and restaurants would acquire it, and it would be much cheaper as well. Yeah.
I also I'm a big fan of urban farming, and I really think it's the future. But I'm just curious to understand why you chose to go down this B2C route as opposed to what you mentioned was your longer term vision of tackling commercial farming, because actually I think that is where you have the potential to have the most impact and actually solve your goal of being more sustainable. I think on a B2C side it's really interesting, and you can educate people to be more sustainable, but the potential impact is a lot smaller.
100%, and we know that as well, but that's much more complex and difficult. And the main purpose of starting with the B2C product, the Eco Garden, is to first of all build a brand, get some initial revenue, but also create a community of customers, of partners, which we have references, because creating this platform of opinion leaders, the rest will just adopt. Everyone will adopt. Now restaurants are literally coming to us and saying, hey, we would like to have these things, or can you maybe build something bigger, or can you do this and this? So, that's the main approach, to kind of start and to build a brand. And of course, the data that we gather now is something we learn from. And using image recognition, for example, we can try to start to learn and kind of jump on this research approach and understand how plants grow. If you understand how plants grow, you can manipulate and you can control the outcome of the plants. You can literally, depending on, with a lot of sensors and a lot of techie stuff, you can manipulate the taste of the plants that you're growing. So you can, in the app in the future, you can choose, I want a sweeter chili, and then the outcome will be a sweeter chili, because everything will be self-adjusting. So I agree with you, and we know that, but this is kind of our approach to slowly get to that and slowly increase and expand. At the moment, we are looking for funding to really accelerate and expand. Yeah.
Quick question: who are the 300 people? Because it seems to be a weird overlap of people who want a fish tank and fresh basil once a month.
Yeah, I know.
I'm just curious who those 300 people are.
I ask the same question. No. So what we did for literally 8 months, we did a very thorough research. We did qualitative and quantitative research. And the idea was to study the eco garden and understand how do people categorize this product as. What is it for you? Maybe it's an aquarium for you, but it's an indoor garden for you. So understanding the categories of the product allows us to better understand the values of that product in that category. So we did the 3 main categories. We had many categories, but the 3 strongest categories were indoor farm, and a tech gadget, and an aquarium, obviously. So we interviewed aquarists, 200 aquarists, for example, and indoor growers, etc., and we identified the values. And in our Kickstarter strategy, and overall in the whole Facebook ad strategy, we mass segmented and mass positioned based on the values that we received. So based on the values that we identified, we created signals. Signals consist of literally triggers of what the values, and we redirect into that customer segment. So aquarists or we would target aquarists in general, like Facebook ads, and we would push on like the soothing and relaxing, the well-being part values, and that's how they acquired. And we can see that a lot of our backers are first-time backers, and 100% are from, or more or less, most of our backers came from the community. So we kind of built the community for over a year now through Instagram and social media. So they really believe in the idea and vision, and they want to kind of be part of this journey. So we haven't spent anything from our own money into this campaign. They come 100% organic. So from everywhere, to answer your question, they are literally everywhere. Italians that love basil to families that want to educate their kids.
Okay, so like one must dominate. One must dominate. Like, do they buy
Families, young families, that's the main segment, I would say. Yeah, so that's like the dominating.
Young, sort of hippie, uppy families.
Maybe, yeah, living in the city, young families with kids between 3 and 12 years old that live in the urban environments and kind of have this more sustainable type of mindset, I would say.
And I'm just curious, why do you think it's so important to have a brand if the end game is to build a sort of smart industrial urban agricultural complex?
It's easier for them later on in this chain or roadmap to adopt the innovation. Literally, what they're looking for are opinion leaders. If you don't have any opinion leaders, then it's much.
You're talking about the person who's buying strawberry at the supermarket.
In general, it doesn't matter. Like even the B2B, the restaurants or the cafes, they want opinion leaders. You can influence the adoption of that innovation that you're presenting by communicating value, but also for them to have some kind of reference. Who is it up? So they see Google and they see Red Bull and they see, in this case, Design Toyet, which is kind of one of Sweden's most renowned design retail stores, which will be selling in all of Sweden. And they say, okay, if they're doing that, then of course I'm going to adopt it. So it's much easier, believe, based on the research to do so. Go ahead, yeah.
I think on that point, one of the risky things and just something to watch out for going B2C is that I think one of the benefits of going to B2B is you benefit from economies of scale.
Yeah.
Here you're building hardware, so each unit that you build, especially initially when you're not building many units, will be pretty expensive.
Yeah.
It'll also be pretty expensive to acquire customers, so your margin is going to be very, very slim, as opposed to if you're building for a larger industrial complex. So just be wary moving forward of actually whether the unit economics make sense and whether you're able to make a profit for those initial batches that you're selling.
Yeah, absolutely. We're definitely looking at that all the time, but thanks for the reminder.
I still understand. It's like you want thought leaders, and you say that what you want to change is like the way people consume food, but then you're excited about being in a cool design store in Sweden, and I'm just like, those are two very different issues. I agree, it looks cool, and if I want fresh basil plus an aquarium, it fits that purpose perfectly. And I'm, the people are probably very happy with what they're about to receive.
Yeah.
But I just don't sort of see how those fit in apart from like a sort of century-long.
Yeah, for sure. So the Eco Garden, the first product, this one would, we want to create this brand, right? We don't want this to be sold at Lidl, for example. We want it to be sold at more. It's affordable for most people, but this is, to have everyone growing their own food and empowering to grow smart is kind of the long-term vision, and we're getting there by introducing first this product to create a brand, and the next product will be much cheaper, which allow a lot more people to adopt it and kind of have it in their homes and grow food more locally. So the vision is the same, but we have the strategy, at least the roadmap and plan of action to get there.
Just one quick question on that. if everything regulates, why do I care about changing the temperature? Like in the south of Spain?
You don't have to change it, or what do you mean?
So like what am I, when I'm in the south of Spain on the beach, what am I looking at if everything
You're looking at the water and chilling. That's what you're doing. You're not looking, So,
so I have an app if I want to
so
kill my fish. Sort of.
if you want to. No, I mean, you can check the plants, you can check the temperature, just kind of have everything, all the data gathered at one place. You can see how much energy you're saving, for example, with the LED light and the light sensor, and or make, you can check the history of you can. So that's the thing. We've have these options, so you can set it so it's kind of completely automated. And some people would like to tweak and check the app. They want to check and they want to feed the fish manually by pressing the button. Kind of that gives them some kind of sense of accomplishment and being kind of more interactive and more engaged. So we have the different options. But yeah, if you want to just chill and work on your town, then yeah, you can do that.
Cool. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, are you still with us? We have a last pitch tonight. So, woo. If you want to run on the stage, you can do that too. Not a Diet, a local startup. Please help me welcome them on stage. All right. You have two.
Long night, no? All right, I'll go one back. So hey guys. My name is Alex, this is my co-founder Louis, and together we're Not a Diet. Not a Diet is a digital clinic that helps obese patients prevent chronic disease. And we do that by teaming you up with your very own digital health coach and by applying new medical research that is not standard of care yet. And the reason Not a Diet exists is this. This woman on the left, is it the left? Yeah. Ah, okay, you can't see. They can see me, it's nice. Okay. Anyway, so the woman on the left, that's my mother. My mom has been overweight for the last 30 years. And last year she was diagnosed with high blood pressure. And she had the choice to either take blood pressure medication for the rest of her life or change her lifestyle. And this problem is not specific to my mother. In Germany, there are more than 20 million people who are obese and therefore at a higher risk for chronic disease. So Louis and I, we decided to quit our jobs and to help my mom. And what we found out during that activity is that there are mainly 3 reasons why the current healthcare system makes people more sick rather than more healthy. So the first reason is that the environments that obese people live in are mostly toxic. Whenever my mom tried to change her lifestyle, she would feel lonely and not supported. The second reason is that physicians and health experts, they are mostly incentivized to manage your disease rather than making sure that you become healthy. And the third reason is that established weight loss programs, such as Weight Watchers, they're mostly based on outdated nutrition science.
So with this, we thought about what can we actually do to make this better and to solve this problem. And what we came up with is a digital clinic that is working on your phone. And to give you a brief idea what this could look like, as a user, you will get 24/7 support by a personal coach via chat. So it's really convenient for you and it kind of fits into your everyday life already. Also, we take the most recent treatments from clinical trials as well as the practical fields, and we give that to you in the form of action-based advice. So it's not something super complex or super convoluted, but something you can use right now, like today, to make like a healthy lifestyle change, basically. And lastly, what you get is a chatbot companion that allows you to track your weight and log your meals. And also you get instant feedback, like 24/7, obviously, because it's a chatbot. And with this solution, we basically want to bring our first proof. And that first proof is that chat-based coaching actually works. So far, we get like really positive signals from our 10 users, which are paying 15 euros a month to use our product. For example, Alex's mother, Annette, she lost more than 10 kilograms, and she actually managed to reverse her high blood pressure, and she's now feeling really great. Our users are really successful in achieving their goals, such as her, but they're also quite engaged. So we have like, on average, 9 interactions per day with us or the companion. Also, our users are really, really happy and satisfied because 9 out of 10 of them would recommend us to their friends. So we are quite happy with that, of course, although it's like a small user base still. The next step for us is to actually make that proof And for that, we want to acquire more users until we can figure out a repeatable process of how to actually create lifestyle change. And we want to acquire those users by focusing mostly on really, really local meetups and PR. Right. So then, once we got this, we want to move on to the next step, which is the second proof we want to bring. And this is that we can actually treat people which already have a chronic disease, right? So before we talk about prevention, now we talk about treating people which are chronically ill. And to do that, we need to add medical supervision, because you cannot just coach them and have no doctor that is supervising them. Luckily for us, we already are working together with a doctor who is Dr. Markus Bock, and he's a researcher at Charité in Berlin, but he also has his own private practice where he's treating people that are chronically ill with lifestyle changes such as a ketogenic diet or therapeutic fasting. And this would be a hybrid model where basically his patients come to his practice and get the treatment they need, but then they will switch over to our digital solution and get the remote care which is continuous and allows them to actually achieve their goals, because for Marcus it's pretty hard to keep track of all his patients. And this brings us finally to our great vision, which is actually to reverse chronic diseases completely remotely and only by lifestyle changes. So you don't have to take medicine, you don't have to go to any doctors. It's like accessible for anybody, it's affordable because it's remote. That's our big goal and our big vision that we're working for. Just a quick word on us as the team, right? So, like I said, I'm Louis, I'm the CEO and the CPO of Not a Diet, and Alex is working as the tech guy and the CMO. But actually we go like way back. We've been working together in our last company for about 2 years. Which is a tech startup from Heidelberg, a small, beautiful city, but not so much going on there. And I was the lead CPO there, and Alex was the head of growth. So we've been living together, we've been working together, so I think we share a lot of love, and this was supposed to be a red heart, not a black heart. Like, the formation was a bit fucked up, so it's like love going on here. So yeah, we went through a lot together, and I think we can go through a lot more together because we have a really strong foundation. And with Dr. Markus Bock as an advisor, I think we can face the medical challenges which are obviously ahead of us. We are aware of that. And with that being said, I really have to thank all of you, and we thank all of you so much for this chance to be here. Like, it's super nice. It was the best weekend we had in a long time, I think. We learned so much, and I hope that you really kick our asses now and tell us what we're all doing wrong and give us really good advice. So thank you guys.
Great pitch. My main question is, I guess I'd like to understand a little bit more what advice you're giving. So how does the product work? And if you're, what kind of things are you telling patients to do today?
Right. So the product right now is really scrappy. It's a prototype that we use using a lot of different tools and partly our own backend and the chatbot, obviously. And the advice we give is actually like, the nutritional advice is mostly on a ketogenic diet base, which is basically kind of imitating the effects of fasting. So it tackles something which is called insulin resistance, which is a bit medical, which is kind of the underlying root cause of why you are obese, and most of the chronic diseases have been like proven that this is the cause that functions them, that causes them. So we base our advice mostly on that, which is the medical side, or let's say the health side, and we couple this with you could basically call it, like say, like psychological therapy or coaching, which enables you to basically get to a mindset change, right? Because we've realized that most diets work in the short term, they never work in the long run. So that's why we don't want to be a diet. We want to help you create habits, and habits will like actually enable you to get to a point where you do something in the long run and stick to what you change. So it's really about a lifestyle change, not about like a crash diet or something like that.
So is it an automated chatbot that reminds you every day how much you should be eating or what foods you should stay away from?
So the chatbot is like automated, but it's really secondary at this point. So we do most of the coaching ourselves right now, actually, and this is really manual. But this way we learn like the most because we interact with our users all the time. Like, it takes a lot of our time, but we do get a lot of information. And we hope to build out the chatbot to take over more of the coaching that we do, but that will just like, I think time will show what works and what doesn't work. I think, so currently, like I said, we try to get to this point where we find like patterns in user behavior that we can see, okay, this actually works with many people, like let's say 80% of the people, and we can create this repeatable process. So it makes it really easy for any kind of coach to quickly get to a point where people are able to change and make changes that last. And then we can see about automation, I think, like it's secondary. unless you have anything to add. No. Okay, I'm doing good.
I think it's definitely an interesting problem you're trying to tackle. I would just be aware of the competitive landscape and the fact that there's a lot of different apps out there that are trying to target weight loss. And I think the next step for you guys is to really understand how you differentiate, how you acquire and retain users, and how you create an experience that is significantly different than what's already out there.
Yeah, like I totally agree. The health space is super, super crowded, and so that's why we actually want to go to our vision as quickly as possible, which is not about treating obese people, but it's about treating people that are mostly obese, but also they have chronic disease. And for those people right now, they get only medicine. Like there's nothing they get in terms of lifestyle change. Doctors tell them, well, you should lose some weight, but yeah, it's hard to lose weight. Like they're by themselves. And so I think this is kind of the gap between, you have research that is out there that shows how you can reverse those diseases by lifestyle changes. And you have the medical system, which is sort of way behind, not applying this. And I think we can get in there, like, actually there's a good timing right now to do this because it's not applied. Like Marcus, the doctor, is one of the very few people that actually do this, and he's like on the leading edge of the research also for this. So I think that's our differentiator. Like, I agree that just helping people lose weight is not such a differentiator, but once you get to the medical side and treating people with it, I think it's different.
Just a final comment, I would say that if you are trying to treat people with chronic diseases and you're trying to essentially provide medical advice, do make sure that you've understood all of the regulation on that side of things, because I've seen a lot of startups go down that trap where they, 6 months and didn't realize that actually this is a regulated product. And
it will be like we know that we actually looked into it because it's super regulated, which is good. It should be.
Hi guys. I really love that this has come from a very personal experience, and commend you guys on trying to solve a really, really terrible issue at the moment globally. And obesity is a chronic disease itself.
Yeah.
So, tackling that is very pertinent at the moment. You guys are very early at the moment, so I mean, I really, there's not too much feedback I can really give. I guess one of the questions I have actually is, to Julia's point, there's a variety of ways you could have attacked this issue.
Yeah.
Why did you decide to go straight to one-to-one interactions versus activities or exercise or things like that?
So we didn't actually. We started actually in January this year, and we first only had the chatbot, and we thought, this is amazing, we love chatbots, let's try this out. And it was just doing that. It was giving people advice, very standardized, because it was not smart enough. And it didn't work, right? So people stick with it for, let's say, a week, maybe 2 weeks, except for Alex's mom, because she's just great. She pulled that through. But the other guys, they dropped off, and we learned quickly that in order to engage people enough for them to make lifestyle changes, you have to either have a super smart chatbot, which might not even be possible at this time or for a long time, honestly. So this led us to go back to the drawing board and say, okay, how can we actually solve this, and what do we need to do? So we figured out it has to be first manual, one-on-one, and of course this can be way optimized, but we don't want to optimize now on this because we haven't learned what we need to learn yet.
Right, yeah. And I mean, that was going to be my second point, just that you have 10 users at the moment.
Yep.
Try to get many more on board as soon as you can. You're going to have massive amounts of learning from these interactions. Don't think about your chatbot for now. You're so far away from automating this. But longer term vision to have a chatbot which helps with something like this, I buy.
Yep.
And also getting longer term vision to have this as for chronic disease management for obesity, also I buy, because then it's reimbursable and then you actually have paying users more easily. But of course, the regulatory hurdles and all of that will be tricky. But good luck.
Thanks.
Just one quick point. So like abstracting from the regulatory issues, I think there's a huge opportunity in putting the level of care that you guys seem to put in dealing with the individual interactions. Obviously, that level of care is going to be a bit hard to scale because you're taking care of literally the 10 people at this point. And but I'm sure there's a way to do that, and you seem like guys who could be able to crack that. I'm just curious, why you're saying that people were happy to recommend, and like the price point is incredibly low, so that's obviously not an issue. I was wondering why, like, who are the 10 people, and since you started in January, why don't you have a couple more? Like, is the bottleneck just your time, and you're essentially like health and psychological coaches for 10 people full time, so it's a bit hard to take more.
No, not yet. Yes. So what Louis said is like is true, but he left out a large part. So we did the chatbot until April, and then we decided to quit. Didn't work, and then from April to let's say late July, we took a wrong turn and spoke to health insurers and spoke to doctors and tried to understand the industry, and that cost us a lot of time until we realized, okay, this is not really making sense because these people, they don't understand what we want to do and we can't communicate it to them without doing it. So then we decided in mid-August, I think it was, mid-August, to start this. So this is the result of the last 8 weeks. But your question still applies. So
I mean, it went from 1 person a week to 1 person a month. So
yeah, exactly. So it's still a valid question. And what we do is what we did is I'm from an obese family, as you saw. So not only my mother, and obese people know obese people. So most of the people are from my extended network, not all friends and family, but extended network. And there are a few more who are going to join, but from then on we need to find new ways. So as
how long,
mentioned.
so you say this is 90 messages a day, essentially what you get, 9 per person, 10
yeah,
people.
yeah.
How long does that take?
We believe that we can easily scale to 20 coaches each, so there will be 40 users. Okay. I can't say whether it's 3 or 4 hours at the moment too. Yeah. Thanks. Thanks, guys.
Que la famille.